kids, comics. Silverhaired Bronze Age babe here, yakking about her comic book collection, and today I'm going to show you a fall haul. Here's some of the books that have come in over the transom to the Shebab Fortress of Solitude this autumn, and I thought I'd just run through them for you. First is the Overstreet Comic Book Guide. I just it was a spur of the moment purchase. I remember owning, I think it was the 1979 Overstreet Guide, back when I was a teenager and collecting and trying to understand what the hobby was all about. And I remember thinking, boy, is this overwhelming. So I sadly, I hadn't kept it. I wish I had. But in any event, I don't know. I just decided to grab one of those things and kind of catch up with what the guide says in terms of valuation relative to the Silver Age stuff in particular that's in my collection. But also, I did remember there were a lot of other interesting articles in my that guidebook back in the day. So I thought I'm finding it very interesting, actually. There's a lot of interesting commentary about the hobby. So what the heck? Can you really be a comic book hobby fan without having at least one copy of the guide somewhere? So there we go. I added, this is Justice League number 86. I've added this to my Justice League collection for two reasons. Most of you may know that I'm just really not a fan of the Justice League stories for the most part. I don't like the way they have to divide up the team and divide up the plot, kind of the expository information between, two or three of them. But I have always admired the covers of these books, and particularly in this era here. And so this is a Neal Adams cover, and it kind of fits in with several books of that era that were dealing with pollution. I did a video on one of them called "Give a Hoot, Don't Pollute," and so this kind of falls into the same zip code, as does this number 90, also talking about the ecology. Again, it was the ecology and pollution and all that stuff was a really big deal when I was a kid back in 70, 71, that era. So, and I always had a thing for this cover. I remember seeing ads for it at the time, and I just never had it. So I was like, you know what, time to get it. The other thing I bought kind of spur of the moment, just rooting around on the eBay, is this Secret Origins issue, number 5, and it's about the Spectre. So it's a Golden Age reprint of how Jim Corrigan became the Spectre, and I knew nothing about it. You may remember that I did a video, and I've talked about on a live dive, the Bronze Age Spectre run in Adventure Comics, but I just came to that as is. I didn't really know that much about Jim Corrigan. I loved this Golden Age story. I really did. I am so delighted to finally have that in the collection. I also have added to the kind of the horror ghost anthology section of my collection. This is actually a great. The House of Secrets. I prefer the House of Mystery to the House of Secrets because I like Kane as a host better than Abel, the host in this one. But this book had always kind of caught my eye because of the cover, because it was just very different. It was more in line with the Gothic romance books at the time. And this particular story is really well told, and in a kind of a different way than other comic books were doing it. So I'm just delighted with that. And you may remember from the live dive I did with my friend Rob that I was talking about the Sinister House of Secret Love. This is a book that only lasted 4 issues. This is issue number 1. And the thing about these books is that the entire book would be devoted to one story. And so I finally snagged this copy. So I do have all 4 issues of the Sinister House of Secret Love, and I'm glad to do it. So Again, I just love them. I have fallen in deep, deep like. And speaking of love, um, some romance comics for you. This is Young Love number 94, which means that I only have one more of this particular book in my collectible run to snag, and that's number 95. And the reason I'm chasing after it is because of Mark on the man's side. These books I'm going to show you all kind of fall into my interest in collecting romance books from the early 70s, wherein the women's movement of the early 70s is talked about directly and indirectly, and how it just infiltrates just about every romance comic coming out. And I'm here to tell you that the boys at DC, for the most part, all men putting these things out, and some women, sadly, the hostility towards the women's movement, you could see it book after book, story after story, and it's kind of sad, and yet really interesting to look back at. I went to get these are young romance books, and what I do is I kind of assumed that if it was printed in between 1971 and 1973, there would be stories that would interest me relative to the women's movement, and I was right. You see, I have little Post-it notes back there, and what I went through them, and I would mark down what stories were either obviously related specifically to the women's movement, or just kind of in the same zip code, or how they dealt with that kind of thing. And lo and behold, every one of them, there's something in there I found that kind of lends itself to that area of interest of mine. Somebody once asked me if I was thinking of doing a book on this. I don't know, maybe I should, but because it's fascinating, but I think the challenge is that I'm probably the only one who thinks it's interesting. So, but that's the beauty of comic book collecting and hobbies in general. It's what makes you interested, not necessarily what other people will find fascinating. These 20-cent falling in love books, they're great. And again, you can see that I've found something that strikes my fancy in them. And finally, this came in one of the eBay piles I got. This is Young Love number, what is it? I don't even know. But it's what I love about it. It's dated February and March 1961. And I was born in March of 1961. So I'm absolutely thrilled that this made its way into my collection. So there you go. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you next time.